Good evening. I'm going to call the Miamisburg City Council to order, and I need a motion to appoint Emily Christian as our acting clerk of council.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Emily, if you'll call the roll.
Sure. Council members Clark. Here. Collins. Here. Colvin.
Here.
McCabe.
Here.
Nicholas.
Here.
Stalder.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
My friends, this is really a council meeting in name only. Our program tonight involves a growing problem in our nation, and we're glad you're here to learn more about it. There are a lot of adverse consequences for individuals and a community that can result from addictions. It's an issue in society that all members of council and I are concerned about, and we're pleased to present this information. If your family has been touched by addiction, I hope you'll take advantage of some of the resources you'll hear about tonight. Council, before we exit the stage, does anyone have a comment?
I'd like to just say thank you in advance to all the agencies that are here that did a display, that are going to present, for staff, for putting it together. And obviously this is a major issue that affects everyone, either directly or indirectly. And the fact that you're here showing that you're willing to be a solution and want to help the community. And I'm glad that we're using this forum to help fix this great problem. Not a great problem, but using this forum to deal with this issue that affects us in a negative way.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I also want to just say thank you to the city. I know Emily Christian was a big part of planning this, and I just appreciate the work that was put into it. It's something that we as a council have been talking about for some time, because we know that this problem has been really big in this community and in all the communities in Southern Ohio. And I just appreciate the fact that we are a part of a city organization that's willing to admit that it's a problem and look for solutions. So tonight is just the beginning of that, really. We want this to be kind of a kickoff event for people to be able to come together and form whatever subgroups they can to kind of, work on this and fight it in your own neighborhoods. So I'm hoping that this is informative. People really walk away from this understanding this problem a little bit better and are able to take action and really kind of move forward in a positive direction. So thank you to the city.
At this time, council, we're going to exit the stage, and I'm going to turn the program over to our Police Chief, John Sedlak. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, and welcome to everybody who joined us here tonight in the historic Plaza Theater in downtown Miamisburg. Welcome. This is an important event for the city, as the mayor previously discussed, and council. It is something that the city wanted to do for some time to provide information and education to the community members. And as we were planning, back on June 23rd, we received an invitation as a city, as well as other cities in the region, to view the first screening of a movie that was produced by, jointly by the FBI and the DEA, called Chasing the Dragon. And the city did send 3 representatives to that movie. And it became apparent very soon after viewing that screening that it was an important component of the community engagement event that we were planning to host in the future. So it is here tonight for your viewing, and I think you'll agree with me after seeing it. Captain Tom Thompson of the Miamisburg Police Department has a short presentation that will outline the issue of heroin and opioid abuse, both on a national scale and then a micro view here locally, what we contend with, and how as a city we deal with it. Immediately following his presentation will be the airing and the screening of the video. And then after that, we will have a panel assemble here on stage, and we'll field any questions that audience members here may have. The city hopes that you'll find this both informational, educational, but more importantly, very worthwhile. And as a community, we have with us tonight as well Dr. David Vail, Superintendent of the Miamisburg City Schools, Mr. Niraj Antani, Congressman from our district, and Fire Chief Matt Queen of the Miami Valley Fire District. And also, you will find that there are a couple police officers that are here and will remain here throughout the event. They are here to be accessible to you. If there's any information that you may want from them, please feel free to go up to them and ask them at any time during the evening. And if there's any information you want to impart to them, please also feel free to do that at any time. After the event concludes here in this theater, out in the lobby are some tables, and there will be informational materials there available to you, as well as representatives at the table from the following organizations: Montgomery County Drug-Free Coalition, Families of Addicts, Recovery Works Healing Center, and Mr. Rusty Toadvine of Teen Challenge. And with that, I'm going to turn it over for the presentation of Captain Thomas Thompson. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tom Thompson. Can anybody not hear me? Everybody can hear me? I'm with the Miamisburg Police Department, and I'm going to briefly discuss several different issues that we're dealing with the heroin or opioid, which is, when you see opioid, that's the prescription painkiller problem here in Miamisburg. So we'll talk about it, how big is the problem nationally, what's it look like in Miamisburg, which I'm sure you guys are interested in, what are some of the things briefly that we're doing about the issue. Then we'll watch Chasing the Dragon, which is about a 45-minute or so, very good movie from the FBI and DEA, and then we'll have the discussion afterwards. So people always say if there's gateway drugs, what leads to heroin addiction? Well, people that are drinkers, alcohol, twice as likely to be involved with heroin, weed 3 times as likely, cocaine, which is a much harder drug, 15 times more likely, and prescription painkillers, which is really ends up being, at the end of the day, the gateway to this heroin epidemic. That's 40 times more likely people that are addicted to opioids or prescription painkillers. So here we have how we end up getting to it is we've had a big increase, and you see the years 1999 to 2011 up here. 218% increase in doctors handing out prescription painkillers. Well, in 2011, they got drastically cut off. So now people are searching for that same type of effect, and so they go from the opioid to the opiate, heroin. But until 2011, a 218% increase over the previous 12 years. Then people think prescription drugs, less risky. I'm getting prescribed, my parents get them prescribed to me, doctors giving them out, it can't be a big deal, but people still get hooked on them. And usually when they try heroin, when they get off the pills, it's usually snorting at first. It's not usually intravenous injections, so it doesn't seem quite as bad. So you add those together, a lot of extra people addicted to opioids, the high availability of heroin at a much cheaper price now that the pills have dropped off. You can get heroin much cheaper, and what you end up is a large amount of heroin addiction, a large increase in that, and a large increase in heroin-related deaths. So nationally, we'll take a look at this briefly. There used to be stigmas surrounding heroin addicts. They're just people laying in alleys with needles sticking out of their arm, but that's absolutely not true. This is from the Center of Disease Control. You can see between 2002 and 2013, now that's only addressing heroin, and this is a national number. There was a 286% increase in heroin overdose-related deaths. And if you look over here, it goes across sex, male, female. You know, we see them both sexes. It's increasing. Age, increasing at every age. Race, now this has, the most increase you see here is white, but also we're seeing a large increase now in the African American community and other communities as well. And socioeconomic status, no matter how much money people make, and I'm going to show you a map later that you'll see it's all over the city. You know, it's all, and Miamisburg happens to be a part of the United States of America, so the problems that happen around our country that we see nationally are also going to affect us. And regardless of what people's health insurance coverage is, it's increasing. So what does it look like in Miamisburg locally as far as deaths? Now this says accidental overdose deaths for the last 5 years. You can see we had 3 in 2011, peaked in 13, and had 10 last year in 15. Now, these numbers are not, less than half of these numbers are heroin related. Some of these numbers are prescription painkiller related. Some of these numbers are cocaine related or other types of drug related, but we had 10 deaths in 2015. And I'll talk about this briefly later. We introduced Narcan. Our police department started using that in June of last year. Had we not started using that, that number would be much, much higher, as you'll see here in a few minutes. And here's an example of how it crosses every socioeconomic status in every neighborhood. You can see it, this is a map of the city. You can see a higher concentration maybe in certain areas, but there's not one area of the city that's not touched. The different colored dots, you probably can't read that from where you're at, represent different years. From 2011, we had 69 opioid-related overdoses. Now, how do I know that those are all opioid-related? Because these are specific calls pulled that we use Narcan on. Either us or the medics use Narcan based on evidence we found at the scene that would lead us to believe that it was a opioid or heroin-related overdose. And normally it worked. In 2012, 58 of them. In 2014, 66. And in 2015, 80 overdoses in which either us or the fire district used Narcan. And this year, I will say we're on track to not reduce that number. So we're still battling the issue, but we're preventing more people, with the Narcan, we're preventing more deaths at this time. So what are we doing about it? Miamisburg has been very, very proactive for the last couple years in dealing with this issue on a multi-pronged type approach. One, as far as addressing the community, one of the big things that we've done is we've partnered with Kyle Shaw, who will be up here later with Whole Truth Ministries, and we've been out several times and spoken to large groups of doctors, talking to them about when they're having seminars on prescription painkiller medication, and we can give them both the law enforcement perspective and what's really going on in the street type of perspective from those that are addicted or those that are in recovery, and what are the effects of what they're doing. We also have partnered with the Montgomery County Drug-Free Coalition, and Bruce Langos from that organization will be up and explain that a little bit more later, but essentially it's law enforcement from local level all the way up to federal level, nonprofit groups that are working to combat the addiction problem, health organizations, all kinds of entities working together. One of the spin-offs of that is going to assist us in increasing or changing a little bit the way we're educating our kids in school as far as preparing for this. Instead of just the standard curriculum, we're going to be able to tweak it a little bit with some help to be able to up that a little bit to address our needs. We're also meeting with neighborhood watch groups, other community groups, partnering with churches, you know, getting recovery information out, partnering with people like Bog Ministries who are handing out food, and then we'll be there and handing out resource information. So we're trying to get out in the community. We're also upping our enforcement. We have a no tolerance approach, but you know what? We had a no tolerance approach to heroin 5 years ago too. So that hasn't totally changed, but we're being more aggressive in our investigations, and we're doing a lot more partnering with county organizations, other local organizations, task forces that include everybody from local to state level to targeting these drug dealers. Administrative policy, I talked to you briefly about the Narcan. how much more those deaths would have risen had we not started using Narcan. And I will say that being in some of these neighborhood groups recently, I have seen a positive effect of us using Narcan and people that are actually getting help and recovering and then helping each other out. So we've been doing that, and we've also changed the way that we are doing investigations. We're being much more aggressive and thorough in our investigations to try to lead to the person who's actually dealing the dope in our area, and we've been successful in a lot of areas and catching some of these dealers. We're also doing a lot of working with the courts as far as enforcement issues and how can we best get people help. So with that, we'll move into the movie Chasing the Dragon.
Hi, I'm Jim Comey. I'm the director of the FBI.
I'm Chuck Rosenberg. I run the Drug Enforcement Administration.
We're talking to you today because we are facing a crisis that is killing far too many people: prescription drug and heroin abuse.
Each year, more than 46,000 people die from a drug overdose. That's more people than die from car accidents or from gun violence. And half of those 46,000 deaths are related to opioid abuse.
We thought the best approach would be to let you hear the truth. No filter, no censors, just the straight facts from people who have lived with the hard consequences of opioid abuse. You're going to watch unscripted interviews that include some raw emotion and some profanity. You're going to witness real tragedy and learn what happens when drugs take hold of real people and don't let go. You will see that those whose lives are taken over by drug addiction are often kids from stable homes with strong families. Good people who had great childhoods, were given everything they wanted, and had everything going for them. But they took one wrong turn and they were hooked. And once you're hooked, it is so very hard to get off these drugs, and the spiral down is so quick.
After you watch this film, we want you to talk about it. We want you to talk to your parents, to your relatives, to your friends, to your brothers and sisters. If you know somebody who's using drugs or even thinking about using drugs, say something.
You're going to see that once the addiction starts, it is often too late. By telling somebody, you could be saving a life.
I didn't care. I didn't think about it. I just did it. Once we started getting high, it was done.
She was 17 years old, and the only way I knew about it is because she was arrested.
Started smoking pot around 18, and I was always offered prescription drugs, and I never would take them. Then I was in a car accident.
I was running down in the middle of the night to get some water, fell down the stairs, landed on my back on the wooden floor.
It started for me with pot and just progressed into hell, basically.
Weed didn't do it for me, but definitely weed started it all for me.
It was definitely something I didn't see until it was too late. I had no clue what I was getting myself into, so.
Started taking 3 at a time, and then I was taking 4 at a time, and then I started taking
I became addicted that day.
When you're getting high, it's not just a drug.
You're hooked. $500 going.
And she was a convicted felon at the age of 18.
I had maggots in my leg.
Turned to prostitution.
Stealing from my family.
Married, mother of 3, and I'm
They're gonna
stripping.
take you to hell and back.
It's not just a little pill.
Takes control of you.
I started using heroin.
The same heroin that just killed me.
You can't go back and say I'm
And
sorry.
it will win.
It will get you.
Her sister found her.
Died in her sleep.
My daughter,
She was dead.
Being addicted to opiates is like chasing a dragon. You're constantly seeking that first high. But what's gonna happen if you actually catch it?
come from a great family, you know, always had what I wanted. Never had a curfew. I could sleep over at my friend's house whenever. I could have done anything. They would have paid for me to go to any kind of school, stuff like that, and they paid for guitar lessons.
I grew up with my dad. My mom wasn't in my life, though. He pretty much was mom and dad throughout the whole life. He would tutor me for at least an hour. On the weekends, we'd go out, we'd go camping, we'd go out on the boats. We always had something planned.
She started in gymnastics when she was like a toddler, and she was a cheerleader through middle schools, high schools, and she was also a competitive cheerleader. She started competing probably in 7th grade. She was a very good student. She was in AP classes, AP honor roll.
Worked myself up through the years with minimal college to a position. I worked as a corporate account executive. I was making about an average of $122,000 a year. Things were pretty good financially. We were secure. Kids were happy. We had no real issues.
Dad was military. Mom was Korean. Everyone I grew up with was the same way. Everyone's parents was military and Korean parents, Korean mom. No, I did martial arts, ballet, gymnastics, did all kinds of stuff. I did piano lessons. I was an honor roll student, always went to school. I was like 3.43, grade point average.
I had a great childhood, great family. We did a lot of camping, a lot of fun stuff, going to the beach, camping at the beach. Very active in scouting, Boy Scouts, and something my father, me and him did together. You know, a couple days before my 18th birthday, I actually got my Eagle Scout, which was a big accomplishment for me.
I met my first husband when I was very young. I was 13. And then we got married at 17. So I got to grow up pretty quick. I was 22 years old, and that's when everything started. I got pregnant with my youngest daughter. Once I had her, they gave me Oxycontins. That was the pain medicine. And from then on, that's where my addiction started.
A friend offers you something at a party or at home, or you're having a bad day and you need something to pick you up, so somebody hands you a pill and says, here, this'll help you feel better. That's how this problem always starts.
I was at a concert, and I was 15 at the time, and I was drinking a beer, so I got a possession alcohol charge. I got put on probation, so then I couldn't smoke pot anymore. So I started to panic, and then somebody approached me and said, well, here, try this, and it was Oxycontin 80.
So I was hobbling into work, and a young lady that worked there used to be a pharmaceutical sales rep, and she had some samples of things. And she said, Katrina, have you gone to the doctor for this yet? And I said, no. So she said, well, I have these things. Take one, not more than that. Go home, take one, you know. And I had a habit every night where I'd go home and have a glass of wine. So I went home that night and I took what she gave me, but instead of taking one, I took two, because I didn't even know what they were. And took the two, had my glass of wine, and all of a sudden, it just triggered something in my brain, and I would say I became addicted that day.
I think the new friends had a really, really big impact on, you know, when she got to that fork in the road, you go left or you go right, and I think at that point, the friends helped pick the road that she chose. This sounds really appealing. I'm gonna try that. But I guess what most people and most kids don't understand is, you know, when you try something, you're not trying it. It's your new path.
I just like the feeling of certain things being high. It wasn't like I'm depressed, so I'm gonna take this to make me feel better. It was kind of like I'm feeling good. I'm gonna try this to see if I can feel even more better.
Started taking 3 at a time, and then I was taking 4 at a time, and then I started taking like 6 at a time. And then I went from taking them orally to shooting them. And that was the end.
I went back to the doctor a couple times and got him to refill the medicine to the amount that he couldn't refill it anymore. So then I started buying Oxycontin off the street. From there, Oxycontin started to be more expensive and harder to find. A girlfriend of mine introduced me to heroin. I could get a whole lot more for a whole lot less. And then once I shot up the heroin, that was it from there. My addiction took off, and my daughter was 7 months old when I became physically addicted to heroin intravenously.
I never hesitate to ask them all which drugs they've tried. And they'll typically say, I've started off with marijuana, tried cocaine, and I've tried oxycodone, and I ask them of all the drugs they've ever tried, what's the most addictive drug? And without a doubt, 100% of the time, they'll say the most addictive drug is oxycodone.
You know, the drugs, feel like it took my mind over and made me do things that I, normally brought up not to do, And it just turned me into a monster.
I just went in my medicine cabinet. My buddy's like, oh, hey, these will get you high. Let's do some. So I was like, okay, you talked me into it right here. I don't have to pay anything, sure. It doesn't even have to be a drug dealer. It could be right in your house. And next thing you know, you're hooked.
My friends in the beginning were the friends that didn't do anything, and then I met the crowd that did do stuff. You are who you hang out with. That is for sure.
These kids go into it as, I'm just gonna go to a party and hey, they're doing this over here, let me, I wanna fit in, let me do it a little bit, and it's the devil. It gets you. It's, it's that temptation. Hey, this is a fun party over here. It'll suck the life out of you.
All I wanted to do, if it had been in front of my face, is do it. It's not just a little pill, Respect the power of that, of that pill. It's just because it's a prescription, it is every bit as deadly and every bit as addictive.
I worked at a daycare, taking care of other people's kids. I drove the daycare bus. I had to take their children to school. But before I could drive their kids to school, I was in the bathroom of the daycare, crushing up pills, snorting them, so I could go about my day.
The whole time you're sitting there saying you're not a f***ing addict, you're not addicted, guess what? You f***ing are. Because why are you taking that hit saying, nah, dude, I can quit when I want? You're addicted. People are like, oh, I only smoke weed. I'm not addicted. It's natural. Whatever. Tell yourself whatever. Oh, it's legal now. Oh, f*** off. Whatever.
The first time somebody uses an opiate drug, the euphoria that they get is something that they continue to search for and seek for. So while you could do that in the beginning by just chewing on the drug, over time you can't get that high anymore. So now you have to take it up to the next level. And nobody sets out thinking that they're going to end up being a needle user. But every one of those needle users will tell you that they couldn't get the high anymore doing it the way they were doing.
Heroin became my best friend. Heroin became the love of my life. I put heroin before my family. I put heroin before my children. And I thought that I couldn't do nothing in life anymore without heroin.
There's absolutely no difference between, in my mind, a heroin addict and a pill addict. We both will do anything to get it, break the law, do whatever. You're both addicted. You both go through the withdrawals. You both go, it's the exact same thing.
It's everywhere. It's in your f***ing cabinet somewhere. It could be in your grandparents' cabinet. It could be at your friend's mom's cabinet. It could be anywhere. That's pills. But, well, heroin could be in a drawer somewhere. Who knows? It's all the same. One's just prescribed to you, and one you go cop on the street.
There's no way to say no with the opiates. It's hard. Real hard. I can tell myself no, 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 but my body, as soon as you think about it, you get anxiety, your palms start to sweat. You know, your mental ignores your physical part of it.
I am very angry. And one of the things I'm most angry about, and I tell her all the time, is that that drug was so much more important to you than me. And I'm the one that can help you. I'm the one that helps you. I'm the one that supports you. I'm the one that'll always be there for you. You need something, I'm going to be the one to take care of it for you. But something that literally destroyed everything good within you was so much more appealing. Wanted that so much more than anything I could offer her. And I'm angry. I am angry about that.
The progression of addiction and the behavior that comes with it is pretty standard, regardless of where you're born, how much money you have, how old you are, what your race is, what your nationality is. You can be the smartest person in the world. The minute that chemical hits your bloodstream, you lose control of what it does in your body. You can't control it. Nobody can control it. I don't care who you are. It's not controllable.
I lived in crack houses, and it's almost like something you see on TV, an abandoned building with drug paraphernalia everywhere. It might be a piss-stained mattress, and God knows what else is on it. There was actually a place in the city that we were at, and a lady had overdosed in the bathtub. She had died, but she was still in the bathtub. We'll just find another room in the house, and that's what my day consisted of. It became my full-time job. The needle was my boss, a very demanding boss.
Your whole day revolves around it. You go to sleep doing it, you wake up doing it. You know what I mean? It's like some people smoke after every meal they have. No, you're doing a fucking shot.
It's a never-ending vicious cycle. It's the same thing over and over and over. You wake up, all you want to do is find out how you're going to get something, how you're going to get it.
You know, it's kind of stupid if you think about it, because I'm wasting all this money, stealing from my family and my friends just to do a drug and fall asleep, you know? And then I wake up sick, so I'm like, crap, now I gotta do it all over again, you know? You're still chasing that first high. So, you know, in order to be high, you gotta at least be normal. And to get there, you gotta at least do enough to where you're not sick anymore, so.
Well, usually, like, if I had stuff the day before, I'd always save a bag for the morning time, so when I wake up, I could get well. And I call it that because in the end, I wasn't using to get high anymore. I was using to stay well, so I wasn't sick. You know, I'm not even getting high. I'm just trying to, you know, be able to get up out of bed. You know, my head was always in my lap, you know. I feel like I missed a couple years of my life because there's a lot that, I mean, it's just a fog, black fog, because, you know, I really wasn't there, you know.
My addiction level was so bad that I couldn't even function without 40 pills a day. I was ill, like literally every 4 hours, the chills started setting in. And I would wake up and I woke up sick. And that's the way it went all day long.
How do you know you're an addict? It's when you're doing something that you know is not good for you, that's harming you, but you can't help yourself. When your relationships are starting to fall apart around you, and you don't care, and the only thing that's on your mind is about how to get the substance and how to get to the next high, you're an addict. You can't maintain an opiate addiction and a normal life for very long.
I felt like after my first year of using it, I actually got physically addicted to where I actually needed it to even to wake up and get out of bed, start moving around, take a shower. And that's when I started, stealing from my family, friends. Whatever money I had in my pocket was all going to it. If I got a $500 paycheck, $500 going to dope.
Because you always tell yourself, whenever you're using drugs, and especially it's like a super addictive one, I'm not addicted. Motherfucker, you're addicted. You know what I mean? Like, you're fucking addicted. You're in denial. You might not be addicted at that point in time, but you're gonna keep using, and a month later or 2 months later, you're fucking addicted.
At one point, my husband said he would stop putting gas in the van so I could drive the distance to the city to get my drugs. And I said, well, I'll show you. I'm gonna move to the city. So I don't need my van and I don't need gas money because the dope dealers are gonna be living right here with me. And that's what I did. I ran away from home.
You will be high and put yourself in situations that you will get hurt. Someone will take advantage of you. You'll be knocked out, it's gonna happen. You're gonna get hurt.
Some people who have money and they don't have to steal for it. And then you meet other people who, just pawn their family's TV and is coming to get high and then deal with the consequences later.
She stole checks from her grandmother and signed them. She stole my debit card. If it wasn't nailed down, it was in the pawn shop. She spent $800 a week. My daughter, who had, everything handed to her, could have gone anywhere in the world, very book smart, very motivated, worked at a strip club. My little girl degraded herself just to get that.
Women turn to prostitution, which I've done myself. Guys will steal. They'll rob you right in front of you. I've seen guys take guns out on dealers and steal and rob everything from them, not even worrying about if they get shot or end up in jail.
People get raped. People get killed over stupid shit. It's people now I can say it's just a drug. But when you're getting high, it's not just a drug. It's some
Best thing that can happen to someone who's addicted to oxycodone is that they can be arrested. That's the best thing. The best thing that they can be arrested and go to jail. Everything other than that is worse. It's going to end in a bad way.
You're gonna get caught eventually, so I just didn't think it was gonna be me. I would just think, they must have screwed over the wrong person, they got caught because they weren't careful enough.
She was pulled over. I searched the car, and she had a quantity of pills. At that point, she was smoking them, so there was some type of a pipe device in them, so she was arrested. And she was a convicted felon at the age of 18.
I have 4 kids. My youngest son will be 1 this month. I've been locked up for freaking 8 months. First time I came to jail, the first time I got locked up this year, he was 2 weeks old. Don't even know my kid. My other 3 are in foster care right now. I never thought any of this would ever happen to me. The only thing I care about is my kids. My kids are suffering. It's not me. I give 2 shits if I'm suffering. Yeah, it sucks. But it's my kids, they didn't do anything in this. My parents, they got to come visit me through, I don't even get through a window. I get through a camera, their little camcorder. That sucks.
It's not worth it. Losing your freedom sucks. You have somebody tell you when to get up, when to shower, when you eat, what you eat, and you have to worry about the other people that are in here for, life, and they don't care about you.
I was supposed to go to court November 2011, and the judge was supposed to let me go. He gave me the maximum, which ended up being 23 months, 2 years instead of the 10 months. And at the time, I was so angry. In retrospect, I'm very thankful because I would have, I know for 100% certainty, I would have gone right back out and done it again.
I got kicked out of my house, and I met your neighborhood-friendly drug dealers who were like, oh, you can crash on this couch. And they, of course, they'd give me stuff here and there, but it wasn't ever enough for me to even enjoy it, so that made me run fake prescriptions.
You don't think about anything. You don't think about anybody you're hurting. You don't think about before and after. You don't think 7 dudes in all black are running up in your house. You don't think you're gonna be on the news. You don't think anything. You don't think any of that.
Every generation seems to have their drug of choice. Unfortunately, this generation seems to have found prescription opiates as that drug of choice. And even more unfortunately, the consequences of those drugs are far more devastating than anything else we've seen in the past. Chemically and physiologically speaking, there's very little difference between oxycodone, morphine, and heroin. It's just that one comes in a prescription bottle and another one comes in a plastic bag.
In the beginning, I would always try and get pills because you know what you're getting, you know? You know it's always gonna be the same thing. And then eventually that just got too expensive, you know? So then you'd go for heroin because it's cheaper, but you take that risk of getting really good stuff and overdosing, or getting fake stuff, or just stuff that isn't good enough to even get you well.
A lot of my friends were trying heroin, you know, to get the same high from the Oxycontin, and it was cheaper, and so of course I got into it, and it just grabbed me, you know.
I can tell you this, that I think she was able to access more heroin, easily than the pills. When she was using one or using the other, she was the same horrible, difficult person.
I always said that I would never touch heroin ever in my life, and it was prescription drugs that led me to try heroin. Prescription drugs are the same thing. It's an opiate. You can get 4 shots for the price of 1 pill, and it's a dirty drug, because you never know what you're gonna get. People can cut it with something that can kill you, you know? That's how most people overdose, is that it's cut with something bad.
The doctor asked me, he said, where are you getting your heroin from? Where, you know, I said, I'll never tell you who I'm getting it from. He said, I don't want to know from who. He said, I want to know from where. And he said, well, let me tell you what you're shooting up. He said, you're shooting scrambled heroin, and they are using meat tenderizer as a cutting agent. It's not like, you know, a bag of heroin comes with ingredients on the back. And of course you trust your drug dealer that he's going to just, you know, keep you coming back to him, but he claims he didn't know either. That's how he got it. But yeah, so it eats everything away underneath.
In here, they shoot a meat tenderizer, and they have like big blue, black marks. I'm like, what the is that? They're like, oh, that's meat tenderizer. You've got a few of them. What do you mean? You didn't learn? You don't know. You don't learn because you're trying to get high. It doesn't matter.
A lot of my friends have had abscesses. They might get a staph infection, which turns into MRSA, or, you know, Hep C. And you know, if that's your only needle, that's your only needle, so you're gonna use it again.
At one point, I had an abscess in my leg that was so bad. I had staph infection. So my leg was like 4 times its normal size. When the doctors cut my leg open to clean it out, I had maggots in my leg. They were eating the rot, the infection. That wasn't enough for me to quit. As I was admitted to the hospital, they gave me a PICC line, which is an IV line. I had the dope dealer come into the hospital and shooting heroin into my IV line. I have contracted hepatitis C from sharing needles with people that I don't know who. I shot up toilet water because I didn't want to spend any money to go buy a bottle of water. So we would stop at public restrooms and use toilet water to mix with it to shoot it up. Rainwater on the side of the road, and we'd suck it up in the needle and shoot our dope. I didn't care what it was going to do to me later on, just I wanted the feeling of it right then and there.
Withdrawal for the individuals that are taking the heroin that's available now looks like extraordinary physical, muscular pain. And very few people can actually manage it.
Like, you know how when your whole body hurts when you have the flu? And, like, just, it's like 15 times worse than that. Opiates, you're getting sick. I don't know who the f you think you are if you think you're stronger than some dope, because you're not. You know what I mean? Your body's gonna give in, your mind's gonna give in, your judgment's gonna give in, you're gonna bow. And that's just the way it is. That's the way it is. That withdrawal is...
You feel like you just want to die when you're going through that. At that point, you're willing to do anything to get that next high so you can just feel normal.
I mean, I remember her in her room crying and just busting her room up, screaming to me, just get me a little. Just get me a little so I can stop. No.
Feels like your skin's crawling and you can't sit still and you'll do anything to make it stop.
You can't move. You constantly sneeze. Your fucking whole body fucking aches. It hurts. People are crapping on themselves. People are puking on themselves. People are doing both at the same time. You would probably rather be dead than have to actually go through a withdrawal.
It was horrific. I was sitting on the toilet, diarrhea, vomiting on the floor, so weak I couldn't even move. I just lay there like, I don't want to eat, drink, nothing.
It's just something that I never ever want to experience again. It is the worst feeling ever. And I wouldn't even, I wouldn't wish that feeling upon my worst enemy. That's how bad it is.
Every day I come to work knowing that somebody died. And more times than not, we have at least one prescription drug or other substance abuse case. Your friends, your family will find you dead, and then what happens? And then that is the image that they get stuck with for the rest of their lives.
I've lost several friends to heroin and prescription pill overdose.
I know 2 people on a personal level that had died from it.
You know, one time my friend, she got out of here, she got high. She wasn't even out 6 days. She was dead.
One of my friends, she took her normal dose and OD'd. Her sister found her with a needle in her arm in her room, which was not good.
The day that I overdosed, I was having a hard time finding a vein, and a girlfriend of mine said, well, just go in your neck. You have your jugular vein. And I said, okay. It didn't let me push all the heroin in, and instantly it killed me. When the ambulance got there, they gave me a shot of Narcan, and I was non-responsive to the Narcan, which is adrenaline, and that's to, jumpstart your heart. And it didn't work. So they had to use the defibrillator, and that's where they shock your heart back. They got a pulse. They got me to the hospital, and I was still kind of in and out of it. But when I came to, I unhooked the IV from the pole and unhooked all these little things they had on me, and I went and walked right out and got in my van. And I showed up to the dope dealer with the gown on, these things stuck all over me, the IV in my arm, and he sold me heroin, the same heroin that just killed me. I utilized the IV a couple times before I turned it back in. I have nowhere really to shoot, so that was a freebie.
So everything came to a head. I was writing the prescriptions and full on with my addiction. And I ended up getting caught and going to jail. And while I was in jail, my daughter got involved with some friends. From what I understand, her friends were all doing prescription pills. I had no idea. I didn't even know it was a problem. I just thought it was my problem. And she said, Mom, you don't have any right to talk. Look at you, look where you are. I said, but Kirsten, you saw where it put me. I can't imagine you would do the very same thing that I did. I was like, You know, it just didn't make sense.
My mom, I would go to the doctor's office every time with her. I told her I'd go in for her, and usually it works because she'll go in for me and ask for my prescriptions and they give it to her. And so I went in there and I asked, and next thing you know, she got arrested, and then she called me saying that I had a warrant for me. I said, why would you make me go in and do that? Like, to your own daughter, knowing that she can get caught and get in trouble. And she said that she was sorry because that she didn't realize how bad her addiction was. You need help, Kirsten?
When I talked to her, she didn't even say goodbye. She must have nodded off the phone because I heard like and that was it. It was Saturday afternoon. I was in the jail and they came down and told me they needed to see me. And I went up and because her father and I were both arrested for the same thing, we were both there, so I saw him coming. And the detectives came and told us that she, what had happened. The parent overdose and that she was, initially they said she'd passed and then they said she was in ICU, struggling for life. And they wanted me to talk to the doctor, and the doctor recommended I disconnect all life support, and I refused. And then they had 7 resuscitation efforts, I guess, and eventually, that morning she passed away. So. At her funeral, most all the kids were high. Death is real. And I will say, because I remember being that teenager too, so I know it's like they're gonna mock it, but it's real. And I think I'm still in shock. Like it is hard. I don't even know how to put it into words. Maybe that's why I'm able to deal with it, because it's so mind-numbing that someone you love that much. She was my first love. Someone you love that much, you can lose like that, and you can't go back and say I'm sorry or set a better example or talk them out of it, and I know she didn't want to go. I know that's not what she wanted. I know that she had, all these things that she wanted to do, and I know that as they resuscitated her through the night, that was her way of clinging to life, But it was too much.
I love my children more than anything in the world. I will walk through fire for them. And I know a lot of parents feel that way. But you can't feel that way. You have to understand what you're dealing with is not your child. I put my own child in jail to stop her from this. And that's not an easy decision to make. It's not a fun decision. Nobody wants to know that their little girl's sitting in jail. But she was 7 months clean, eating healthy, getting her rest, no drugs. My son, my nephew, my mother, and I went to get her. And she came out and she was healthy. Everything was great. Everything was great. There were no problems, no fighting, no talking about, Mom, I'm feeling funny, I need to go to a meeting. Nothing. Everything was just that little girl at 16 before all this stuff started. That's who she was. And then she asked to go to the store to get a pack of cigarettes. And she came home, said, oh, Mom, I'm sorry I was late. They didn't have my cigarettes. I had to go to another gas station. Okay, and things fine. So I'm cooking dinner, and I'm like, you want to help me cook? She's like, no, I don't want to help you cook. So I'm going to go in my room and watch TV. And she was so bubbly, like nothing. Nothing was wrong. And she went upstairs, and it was maybe 40 minutes. I was cooking dinner. Dinner was done. And I'm hollering for the kids. My son and nephew come down, and Sierra didn't come down. I think she fell asleep or something. So I go upstairs and knocking on the doors, no answer. I open that door, and my little girl is on the floor dead. And I remember when I pushed on her chest, I heard that last breath. I heard the... I was in my kitchen cooking dinner, and that happened 17 steps up, and I had no idea that when she left this house, that was gonna happen. And I spend my Sundays looking at a gray headstone in a patch of grass. I will be spending my Christmases there, her birthdays there, all my holidays. Because she took that wrong turn.
My girlfriend, Sierra, you know, she passed away a year ago this month, and from heroin. And, you know, that's a constant big reminder in my head that, you know, if I even pick this stuff up once, it's gonna kill me, you know? And there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about her, and, you know, not a morning that I wake up that I don't wish that she was laying beside me, you know? She was my best friend. We went to high school together. Sorry. I met her in high school. I'm sorry. I just miss her a lot. I wish she was still here with me.
Sierra came home on February 12th. Sierra died February 18th. And she got out, still calling her, still calling her. It's that powerful that you could spend 7 months clean, and being educated on nothing but how to beat it, how bad it is for you, you know, all this. And you last 6 days.
The spiral down is so fast, you know? It doesn't take much. And I lost everything. I lost my daughter, first and foremost, but I lost pictures, every material possession I had. I had never been in trouble in my life. I'm now a felon at 41 years old. So all that work I did, you know, all those dreams I had, you know, it's like I'm starting over again with a huge weight on my shoulders, you know, all for a pill.
My dad doesn't even trust me anymore, which is hard because my dad's always trusted me my whole life. I've never had my dad look at me with disappointment before I did this. I'm a criminal, I'm an addict. That's how everybody will always perceive me. Listen to what they say no. Just say no. You're not uncool for saying no. You're more cool for saying no, I think. I wish I could have said no. If I could go back and do it all over, I would definitely go back and say no.
I didn't feel like I was physically hooked, but that's because I never gave it a chance to stop. You know, and I didn't really learn how to enjoy life without drugs. As much as I wanted to quit, I was too scared to ask for help. I don't want to freak my parents out by telling them I'm hooked on some hardcore drug. It didn't kill me like everyone told me.
It's not worth it, and it will get you. You're no different than anybody else. It will destroy your life. You will end up in a jail, you'll end up dead, or you'll be in some crazy institution for the rest of your life. And that's serious, and that's for real. And it took me coming to jail and being incarcerated. And it took me missing my mom's funeral, missing my children grow up. It's taken all of this because nobody in their right mind would turn their back on their dying mom for a drug. I want to be that loving and caring mom that my mom was to me, to my girls. I don't want them to hate me, to resent me. I don't want them to be embarrassed by me anymore.
If you want to fail the rest of your life, if you want to be in and out of jail, if you want to possibly lose everything that matters to you, go ahead and go get high. Go ahead. If you want to be happy, you want to freaking get married, like every good part of my life, I wasn't getting high. You know, every good part of my life, I was getting high. And any drug addict will tell you that. If you want to be a flunky, go ahead and get high. Go ahead and do it. But I've been there, done that, and I wouldn't recommend it.
Sierra did not take life for granted until she started using. It is much stronger than you, and it will win. It will win. Because this doesn't just affect you. It affects everybody in your family for the rest of their lives. That we're the ones stuck here, missing you. And there's help out there. You gotta take it. Don't think you can do it alone, because you can't. And your parents aren't the enemy. They just want the best for you.
It's something I want to deal with for the rest of my life. You know, to be honest, I actually just relapsed about a month ago and used for about a month, and I have a week. I had a week clean on Wednesday, and you know that's something that just shows how powerful this disease is. For me to lose somebody a year ago, not even a year ago, but I'm already using it. That's how powerful this stuff is. And, I'm just gonna try my best to stick with it, because I know it will kill me. And, you know, just something I gotta work at every day. It'll take you to hell and back, and if you're lucky, you know, you'll make it back, you know. It's just not worth it at all, you know. If I could go back, if I knew what I knew now about this, and if I could go back, I would do it all different. Starting with that first pill, I wouldn't touch it.
There's a microphone in front of the aisle to my left. That's for any member of the audience that would have a question. Please just go ahead and head towards the microphone. If there's more than an individual, just line up in queue behind, and we'll get to each person. And while we're waiting for that, we'll start out and we'll do introductions of the panelists, and they can provide a little bit of information about themselves and about the organizations that they represent. And we'll start out with Mr. Richard Confer.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Richard Confer with Recovery Works Healing Center. I'm a co-founder and also a drug and alcohol counselor at the center. We're located in West Carrollton. We work on a daily basis with the Miamisburg court system and the community around here. We're an intensive outpatient counseling center which offers medically assisted treatment in the form of Vivitrol and other buprenorphine products such as Suboxone. As you've seen in the movie, we've had great success working with the Miamisburg court system and the police department here. We have a lot of people actually in recovery now that are receiving the Vivitrol shot. So we work very hard to keep our court system, the probation officers, the police department informed of progress, because just as you guys, we need the help. Counseling, medical assisted treatment, support for family, all that working together is starting to pay off. We are seeing quite a bit of success in our community and in our treatment center.
And Ms. Lori Arion.
Hi, my name is Lori Arion, and I'm a person in long-term recovery from my substance use disorder, which means that I haven't had a drink or a drug for over 10 years. However, that did not prepare me for the roller coaster ride that I got on when I found out that my daughter was using heroin probably about 6 years ago. So as a result of that, I decided to start a support group called FOA, Families of Addicts. However, shortly after I started the group, I saw the trailer to a movie called The Anonymous People, and that's where the advocacy portion of our group came from. So what we do is we provide support and advocacy. So we have 5 weekly meetings in 5 different counties in Ohio. Our biggest meeting is currently at the Life Enrichment Center on Wednesday evening, 7:30 to 9. So all of you would be able to easily attend that meeting. And we have open discussion, we have relevant speakers, we have trainings that we've done. We've dispensed about 213, I think, Narcan kits with 4 trainings that we've had. So really just all relevant things to families and individuals. One thing that you need to know is that when we say family, we mean the whole family. So that's anybody struggling, anybody in recovery, whether it's, an hour or 100 years, grandmas, siblings, all across the board. And I did that as a result of once I started listening to my daughter after experiencing this with her, she educated me more on her addiction than anybody did. Just like they were all saying in the movie, all of that stuff she told me. And it's like so bizarre, for us to hear those kind of things, but she educated me on it, and I wanted to bring that to other families and people. So that's how the support is. And the advocacy portion, we're not anonymous. We encourage people to start talking about it. You can get that movie on Netflix. I encourage you, it's a documentary, to watch it because it encourages people to start talking, that we can't solve a problem that, that is so stigmatized. And I mean, that's what this is all about here today. So we've got a big rally coming up August 28th, which really encourages everybody to come out and be those faces and voices and visit the resources that we'll have there. So we've come a long way in a little over 2 years, and a lot of people are being positively impacted by what we're doing.
Mr. Bruce Langos.
Hi, everyone. Bruce Langus, Montgomery County Drug-Free Coalition, and a member of the Sheriff's Office here in Montgomery County. The coalition was established a little over 2 years ago as a result of a lot of what you've seen as it relates to the number of overdoses and deaths that we've had within Montgomery County. We're made up of about 150 or so members. It's mostly focused on prevention, education, and enforcement. So we have an enforcement piece with ours as well. And the membership is made up of faith-based organizations, government officials, addiction service organizations, parents who have felt the wrath of the addiction problem, and just about anyone from any walk of life that you can think of. Business people and other people are associated with us as well. And our role is, one, to do two things. One is we're trying to stop demand to the extent that we can. Meaning we want to stop the desire for the drug, which means we have to treat the addiction. And at the same time, we have a law enforcement element where we're trying to stop supply. And what we're hoping to do is squeeze those two together as much as we can. Because law enforcement realizes that there is no way to arrest yourself out of this particular issue. You can't arrest enough people, and there's no place to put them if you did. So the issue is we have become a gap between addiction services and law enforcement, and our goal is to bridge that gap between those two entities so that we can try to stop as much demand as we possibly can and stop the supply. This will take, this is going to be a journey. It's not going to happen by next Tuesday or anything like that. It's going to be a tremendous challenge, but there are some very smart people working on this, and I think a lot of the members that you see up here on the panel and others that we have all worked with and our partners, we have a chance to turn this around. And it is a very serious issue that I think, as you've seen in the movie, that we're going to face no matter where we go. And as we go through the discussion here, I'll give you some data that might surprise you as we evolve this discussion.
And the audience has already been introduced to Captain Tom Thompson and myself of the Miamisburg Police Department. So I'll move it on to Mr. Pete Lakes of the FBI.
Good evening, everyone. Before we saw the movie, Captain Thompson talked about three things, and my colleague Ray Dratt and I will concentrate on the enforcement part. Bruce talked about supply, and the FBI and the DEA are in the business of trying to reduce the supply, and it's an uphill battle. Pretty much every crime that we see, with the exception of some high-end corporate fraud, are driven by addicts and their desire to get the next high. So I don't want to speak just for Ray, but that's what we see in our shop.
And the next speaker is Mr. Kyle Shaw.
Everyone, I'm Kyle Shaw. I am a recovering addict. I one time was one of those people up on that screen. I'm the founder of a ministry called Whole Truth Ministries, and what that is an extended discipleship recovery treatment program. We have transitional housing available to help people get reacclimated to society, and also we have businesses in place so that when people are ready to re-enter the workforce, they can do so while still being discipled. We're partnered with a lot of organizations that are up here on this panel, and also Rusty Tovine with his Hope Teen Challenge, the Montgomery County Animus Board, One Bistro, the Miamisburg Police Department, the Miamisburg Probation Department. So I've learned throughout my addiction and my recovery that I had to change everything, and that included the people that I hung out with. So I imagine that's why I'm between a DEA agent and an FBI agent.
Good evening, everyone. Special Agent Raymond Dratt with the Drug Enforcement Administration. We are representing the Dayton Resident Office, and as Bruce indicated, a long time ago we realized that we cannot arrest our way out of the situation. So DEA and the FBI has taken a completely different approach to our enforcement aspect. And that includes aligning ourselves with the Montgomery County Drug-Free Coalition and others. We've established a heroin eradication and apprehension team in the area that tries to hold individuals responsible for distributing the heroin that ultimately results in the death of another. Right now, the members of that are the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, the Dayton Police Department, and DEA. Thank you.
Bruce, I'll turn it back to you. You mentioned some additional information and statistics that you'd like to share, so you might as well, if you would please, do that now.
So let me give you some data so you have some background of kind of where we are today. In 2014 in Montgomery County, we had 264 deaths from overdoses. And that doesn't include the individuals that were Narcan, so the deaths would be a lot higher. In 2015, that went down to 259 deaths. And that also doesn't include the individuals that law enforcement and EMTs use Narcan on. So far in 2016, we're over 200 deaths 6 months, 7 months into the year. So what that means is if the current rate that we have will more than double the death rate from prior year. Through 2015, we had 1,600 calls for service for overdoses in Montgomery County. Year to date in 2016, we're 1,100 calls for service for overdoses in Montgomery County. So you can see the rapid pace that this has. And unfortunately, if you look at how we treat this, we have multiple individuals that detox in the jail on a daily basis. And believe me, I don't know, I'm not going to ask anybody to raise their hand who's been in the jail, but I can assure you that it's not a place that you want to detox. Now, there's 800 to 900 people in the jail every day in Montgomery County, and the percentage of those that are either heroin addicts or opiate addiction individuals, the rate continues to increase. So we've done a lot of things from the coalition's perspective of how we can help. That is, Sheriff Plummer's been very cooperative with allowing addiction service organizations into the jail where we have people who do peer support, we have faith-based organizations that come in. We're working on how we can do medical assisted treatment within the jail facility itself. So we're trying to do more and more of not letting those addicts leave the jail without them walking into some kind of a addiction program.
And Councilman Tom Nicholas, you're queued for a question.
Okay. First of all, thank you folks for coming tonight, but in the information you presented and watching the movie, it just dawned upon me that it's implied that a lot of this starts with prescription medication. So there's no representative here tonight from the medical profession. What help are we getting from the medical profession in helping address this, or is there anything they can do from their side?
Well, the answer to that is yes. And the police department, I can speak for the police department, has been engaged. Captain Tom Thompson has done a couple presentations to the medical community already, as well as Kyle Shaw involved in that, and very possibly other members of the panel here have as well. But to answer immediately your question, Councilman, I'll turn it over to Tom Thompson.
Yeah, the Kettering Sycamore hospital chain, Kettering Medical Center, they've been very proactive in talking to their doctors about the dangers of opiate prescription medication. And they've actually asked us to come speak. They've been giving seminars to their doctors, bringing them up to date on what's going on. And we actually do have some representatives from the healthcare industry on the Montgomery County Drug-Free Coalition, including people that are involved in prescription drugs and not only educating doctors, but finding out doctors who might be a little sideways in how they're conducting business. And I think Bruce might be able to shed a little bit more light on that.
Yeah, we have, as I said, faith-based organizations and others that are part of the coalition, but we also have representatives from hospitals associated with us who are trying to work different avenues of how to treat the problem. So for example, up until just a few weeks ago, if you were an addict and you were taken by ambulance to the emergency room, which you should be if you were Narcaned. Does everybody know how Narcan works? If you do, raise your hand. Okay, let me tell you how it works. So let's say Captain Thompson overdosed. And the first thing that's going to happen is he's going to turn blue, his lips are going to turn blue, and he's going to have very shallow breathing. And Narcan is administered through the nose. And about a year ago, we would see using 2 doses of Narcan to bring someone back around. And it's an amazing effect, because you could give them 2 doses of Narcan and they would literally just sit up from that state that he would be in. And some of them would try to get up and just walk off. But I can assure you within a block or 2, they'll collapse again, because Narcan doesn't stay with you for the whole period of time. It doesn't last that long. And if you're Narcan, you do need to have the individual go to emergency room. Now, up until just, like I said, several weeks ago, what would happen at the hospitals is the addict comes in, the emergency room people do what they're supposed to do. They get the individual stabilized, and within 2 to 4 hours, what do you think happens to them? They just walk out the door. Or a family member picks them up, and they go back to a non-drug-free environment again and start using again. So what we're doing with the help of hospital administration is we're getting permission from the hospital's emergency room departments that when an addict is brought in through EMT after they've been Narcan and they have been stabilized, then during that process they call a 24-hour access number, and we will send someone to the emergency room to try to get that addict immediately help before they walk out the door. And remember, not all addicts will want help. They won't want help until they absolutely feel like they need it. And that process is very important to try to get them into addiction services as soon as we possibly can. So we've taken a couple different initiatives to do that, but that's how the medical organization is helping us out with notifying us now so that we can take action immediately instead of letting that person walk off and we don't know who they are or how to help them.
The education for the medical field is crucial. I've heard so many stories of people in recovery doing well, going to the hospital for something simple, and opiates being prescribed, even if they've said that they have a history of addiction. And I'm not saying that every doctor does that or anything like that, but I've heard a lot of stories, and so we need to really, just like you guys have been doing, educate the emergency rooms and the doctors as far as prescribing protocols. And I also wanted to mention that out in the lobby, we do have a Narcan kit on our resource table. So if you've never seen one, go ahead and check it out afterwards and just familiarize yourself with what it looks like and how to use it.
One last comment on the education of the healthcare professionals. They recently solicited the assistance of the Montgomery County Drug-Free Coalition at the Miami Valley Hospital in I want to say maybe a month ago, Bruce. We did a educational class. It was probably 125 doctors, healthcare professionals, and it went over so well that they've solicited us for additional educational classes, as well as other healthcare providers. There's a couple scheduled for like the 26th of August and so on and so forth. So they really are trying to put forth an effort to educate themselves on this problem.
Can you guys speak a little bit to, just for people in the audience that might not know a whole lot about what addiction looks like firsthand or up close? I know we talked a lot about educating kids not to try the drug the first time, not, to really be aware of the strength of it. But for the parents in the audience, can you maybe talk a little bit about what that addiction looks like? If you don't know to maybe explain what to look for, like what are the warning signs? How do you recognize these things really before they spiral out of control?
But if your spoons start disappearing, that's one sign. My daughter was using for about a year before I knew she was using drugs, but I had no idea it was that. So that really seriously is one of the first signs.
I would say trust your instincts. When I really started getting active in my addiction, I completely isolated. I changed my friends. The signs were there, just nobody really paid attention. So I would say just trust your instincts and really talk to your kids, not just ask closed-ended questions, but really try to figure out who they're hanging out with, why they're hanging out with them. And the signs are obvious. If you see needle marks on their arms or bruises, or if they're stealing money, or if they never have enough money, or they're not home, or just dissociated from family functions and stuff like that, those are all warning signs.
I would say, talk about it in your homes, just like a regular conversation. That's what we're trying to do here, is open up that conversation. FOA, our weekly meetings, opens up that conversation for people who are struggling or in recovery to really talk about it like it's a regular topic, because that's what we're trying to do, is destigmatize it. And so really just bring it out open in the open.
Younger kids are going to probably see behavior changes, different friends they're going to associate with, loss of interest in normal activities, grades dropping, because most people, as the movie indicated, do not start with heroin. There's other drugs that they start with, such as drinking, alcohol, marijuana, so on and so forth. But unfortunately, the prescription pills are so readily available, it's almost easier to get than the alcohol today. So they start experimenting with that, and the addiction can build quickly, especially with the opiates. So as far as any type of significant behavior change, isolation, different friends, loss of interest in normal activities is early warning signs.
Chief, before I forget, we've mentioned prescription medications over and over and over again, and the dangers and how these kids are getting started by getting pills from maybe their parents or maybe their own prescription. And we do, because I know this is going to get broadcast on TV as well and be on the website, we do have a prescription drop box in the Miamisburg Police Department, and many other departments do have it. So if you are living locally and you do have, you had a wisdom tooth pulled, or you had some surgery, and you have extra oxys or Percocets or anything like that, you can bring them to the police department and dispose of them. And so you don't have to hang on to them. You don't have to worry about grandkids or kids or other relatives coming over and abusing that medication.
That drop box, it's available for any prescription drugs. But the opiates and the opioids, those are really critical. I know a lot of people, they'll be prescribed an opioid to deal with pain after some procedure, and you might have a bottle of 30 or more, you might take 4 or 5, and after that, you're not taking any more. It's really critical, it's critically important to get those out of your house and not available to anybody else searching for those things. And you can always drop them off, as the captain said, at the Miamisburg Police Department. And we have another question.
Yeah, if we have a loved one, a friend, somebody that may be just in the grips of addiction, especially when it comes to opiates, what kind of detox treatment do we have available? I've really found it hard to find detox help for people, especially when it comes to opiates, benzos, alcohol, stuff like that. The hospitals seem to be really willing to bring those folks in, but when it comes to detoxing from heroin or any type of opiates, I've had a really hard time finding places for people to go.
What our treatment center, once again, we're an intensive outpatient center, but we do offer medically assisted treatment. And with the heroin or opiates, there's a medication called, it's a buprenorphine-based medication. Most people refer to it as Suboxone or Subutex, that is used to try to stabilize the person initially, to get them to stop using the opiate, start taking this medication so they can really engage in therapy and counseling. There are some other medications that can be used in combination to try to do an ambulatory detox, even in the outpatient setting, to get these people off the heroin or off the opiates to a Vivitrol injection, which is a naltrexone-based injection, but we need about a 7 to 10 day period to do that. Then that medication also has a blocking effect and an anti-craving effect, so people actually can really engage in therapy and treatment. But both medications, if used properly, are really successful in helping detox clients.
The other place that you can go to is there's an organization in Samaritan Health that offers that capability, as well as an organization called Cornerstone Project. Both of those organizations have access to both ambulatory care and they also have access to medical assisted treatment, and they do have beds available for people that can't go back to a drug-free environment. So detoxing is a tough thing to do, but you do want to do it either through faith-based or through, and it's an individual's choice, but through medical assisted as well. I personally like Vivitrol the best because it's a 28-day cycle. So after 28 days, you'll start to get the effect that you need the opiate again, and Vivitrol blocks that for up to 28 days. And what we've seen is the addicts will come back more often because they want that 28-day shot rather than staying away and then relapsing and going back and using heroin again. But there are several organizations that can help with the detox capability. And if you need some help after that, see me after that, and I'll give you some of their phone numbers.
Oftentimes, where the detox and the medical assistance occurs is it really begins in the jail. There was some conversation about that previously. I can say that the Miamisburg Municipal Court, other courts, but I know Miamisburg Municipal Court will utilize sentencing in that way to make sure that there's sufficient time, if possible, for somebody in jail to detox and then start receiving the medical assistance, usually in our case in Miamisburg, the Vivitrol, and has had great success that way. It's probably not the way you would want it to occur if you could choose, but it does occur often that way. And we have another question.
Yes, sir. My name is Fred Peckold. I'm a retired firefighter. And I like the people have been talking about treatment now. How do we stop it? If we can stop it coming in, we can stop a lot of trouble. I know we're short on law enforcement. That's a shame. But it seems like me, if we could find a way to stop it coming in, we could save a lot of trouble. And I'm also a person, I'll be straight out about it. I'm not real happy on rehab because a lot of times they get out of rehab and they're right back on the street again. And I don't like picking up somebody, some drug addict beat the daylights out of, and so forth. I won't beat around the bush about it. But the thing is, how are we going to stop it? I know the FBI and DEA and the local police don't want to have so much manpower. I understand that. But if he can stop it, we can stop a lot of troubles.
Sure. And I will say this. I think certainly there is an enforcement approach. The thing about enforcement is we've been doing it for many, many years. Regardless of manpower or staffing, I think you would find just about all law enforcement agencies making a real commitment of their resources, their time, and their efforts in dealing with that problem. I'm speaking personally, unless you can reduce demand, you're not going to have a significant impact in just through enforcement. We've been doing it many, many years. I don't know that we could claim victory, certainly not, and I don't even know that it's made that much of an impact. These drug pushers and dealers are very, very creative in finding ways to get the drug to satisfy demand. So enforcement has its place, that will continue, but we also have to start strategizing and focusing on reducing that demand. And I think that's a lot of what you've been hearing about tonight, is steps towards doing that. And Captain?
You mentioned changes in the laws, and I think Special Agent Drat spoke at the very beginning about they are changing some things so that the people that are dealing to those that are overdosing are going to be held to a higher standard and actually receiving stiffer penalties for those that are dealing to people that overdose. Also, we've mentioned stigma a couple times, and I think there's several different ways to look at stigma. One is you look at people as drug addicts, but the second is, and I just read a statistic recently that in Florida, in the last 5 years, the amount of overdoses pertaining to heroin alone in senior citizens has risen 900%. So a lot of these people are not your typical drug addicts. There's a prescription drug issue that we're also trying to be sensitive to, and rehabilitation, and so we're really trying to hit that on all angles. You make some very valid points, and we really are trying to hit it from every angle.
What I'm talking about mainly is laws to enforce it where people can walk down the street safe without getting robbed by a drug addict or a drug dealer. We don't have too many laws. And I'm a person, I believe in law and order. I was raised that way. And you got to have some type of rule, some type of discipline somewhere to deal with stuff. And it seems like the drug thing is, you hear every day, somebody getting robbed by drug dealers and so forth. How much of your crime in the Dayton area, Miami Valley area, robberies and murders, is due to drugs? I'd say probably say 90% of it.
I can't speak for every jurisdiction, but I can say that it probably goes across jurisdictions in our county, that we are very aggressive with drugs and drug dealers. We have very few violent crimes in Miamisburg. We have excellent police officers that are taking those people that are going to victimize others physically off the street. And we have a couple that are here today, great police officers that are also battling the drug dealers. They're doing a great job across the region. You take the extra amount of drugs and the extra amount of overdoses that you see here, the crime rates are actually kind of lowering in the area. So law enforcement's really doing a good job of enforcing the law, and the courts are doing a good job of backing that up.
Captain, I was talking about Miamisburg, I was talking about the Miami Valley area, period, yeah. Dayton included.
Yes.
It seems like every time you turn the thing on in Dayton anymore, you got a shooting or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's all due to drugs, 90% of it. And
I want to mention part of the Montgomery County Drug-Free Coalition is there's a law enforcement division of that organization, and it's staffed by all the participating members of all law enforcement agencies, federal, state, in the areas, and we take a specific area based on calls, the number of calls, the drug-related crimes in the area, and we do these saturation patrols, or LE blitzes. And I think we've probably done 5 or 6 since the inception of it. And I'm telling you, it is a huge impact on the areas. We've received good publicity from it. We seem to be making some sort of public impression, letting the people see that there's law enforcement out there on the street trying to make the areas safer so that they can go about their normal business. In addition, you asked about holding people responsible for their crimes. Some of the things that we deal with, whether it's a state prosecution or a federal prosecution, the penalties are the penalties. But I can tell you that some of the penalties that are associated at the federal level with a distribution of a controlled substance that results in the death of an individual holds a minimum mandatory time of 20 years to life. And so when you say that to somebody who's looking at that kind of time, it may not matter to him, but it may save somebody's life if that individual assists and cooperates and said, listen, I get my heroin from this guy. So we're trying to do things at both the state and federal level to, hold these people responsible.
Can I ask you a question, sir? Isn't marijuana a federal law against marijuana? Isn't using marijuana a federal law?
It's against the law, yes, sir.
Right.
That's what I want to know. Thank you. I'm sorry, gentlemen, if I sound like I'm a little irritated, but I don't like drugs. I hate them.
I think everybody
That's
here
all right. We're irritated also.
shares that sense, and thank you very much for that.
Let me just add something if I can.
Sure.
Out of the United States buys $64 billion worth of drugs from Mexico a year. So we do have to work both stopping demand and stopping supply in parallel. And I give accolades to Montgomery, the Miamisburg Police Department, and to Judge Reddick. Judge is one of the initiators of using Vivitrol, doing a diversion program for people that have a drug addiction or drug crimes here in Miamisburg. He's giving them the help that he can. I know he gives them, if they fail to show up for their drug aversion activity, I know he gives them a second chance, but then he will throw them in jail after that. So very innovative program, and it started here in Miamisburg, and it's starting to slowly work its way across other courts and around the state as well. So the magnitude of the problem is so big that we can't just enforce the laws and throw everybody in jail, because when we let them out, they're going to go back to addiction. We have to work both of them at the same time if we're going to solve the problem. And keep in mind that transportation companies are the biggest distributors of drugs in the United States. And if you see how some of the drugs are brought into Ohio and into Montgomery County, it would literally shock you, and I'm sure that Ray can go into some examples, and I can as well. So let me give you one example so you understand kind of what we're up against. If you were a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old and you came across the border from Mexico, and before you came across the border, the cartel members would get a hold of you because either they've threatened your family or they're going to pay you lots of money, and they take baggies and they put marbles in them, and they make you swallow those, and you regurgitate them, and they make you swallow them, and you regurgitate them, until you don't regurgitate anymore. Then the next thing they do is they put heroin capsules in those baggies, and they swallow 30 to 50 of them at a time. And then they come into the United States, they fly into Indianapolis, they take a $600 cab ride from Indianapolis to Dayton, they end up in a hotel in Dayton, they walk across the street to the Walmart, they buy laxatives, they poop them out, and they're distributed on the street. Does anybody believe that happens? It does. It happens every day. For us to go find that, which we do, you understand the magnitude of the street dealer approach to finding that, and then the magnitude of multi-kilos of heroin and lots of cash being distributed through our transportation companies. So all of that is being worked, but I just wanted you to relate to what we're up against to try to solve the problem. So we've got to stop the demand as much as we've got to stop the supply. Because if the demand doesn't stop, fentanyl comes into this country from China, comes into this country from Mexico, heroin comes from both Mexico and Afghanistan. There's a variety of sources of this, And the only way we really can stop it is if we can reduce the demand that people don't want it anymore, while at the same time we go get the bad guys on the supply side. It has to be both. Because by the way, we've tried the other approach of just enforcement for years, and all of us up here I think will tell you it hasn't worked.
First of all, kudos to the Miamisburg Police Department. I've come to know them personally over the last few months because I have rentals and I have a business. Anyway, and the second thing is press charges. That's a mistake people don't do. My tenant, he had a prescription, painkillers. The guy did not press charges. My mother did. For a cell phone stolen, I'm doing it. The mother came across the street and thanked me.
Do we have anybody else?
My name is Tina Schuler, and I'm the pastor at St. John's Lutheran Church. I would like to say thank you to all of you who are working on the drug enforcement angle of it and also the treatment part of the problem. Those are both clearly very difficult pieces to solve, and what I would like to know is, as a congregation and as just folks out here, other than obviously supporting your efforts, what can we do, what works for prevention, so that those of us who are in contact with families and friends and kids and congregations, how can we try to keep people from getting into this in the first place? And also, as a piece of that, is there any sort of legislation that we might be able to work on to allow pharmacists to dispense much smaller quantities of these drugs? I personally had a medical procedure recently. The doctor said, if you start having pain, it's going to be really bad and really fast. You might want to get this just in case. I don't tend to like to take medication anyway, in case I have to. So I said, well, can I just get 2 or 3 of these? They said, no, you need to get the whole 30 or whatever it is. Seems like if we could get through that problem, that would reduce some of the supply of those that are just sitting around available to people.
There was legislation passed on the distribution of opiates by the Ohio Medical Board and Pharmaceutical Board. And there is a dosage that is defined depending upon the type of pain activity that an individual is having. But more importantly, the doctors are required now to enter into a system called the ORS system, that the amount of prescriptions, information, data, and drugs that they've given you, and before you are ever prescribed another dosage at all by another doctor or the same doctor, that all has to be seen in the system, whether or not you're allowed to have more or not, depending upon what your medical condition was. So there is a stopgap in there, and that the ORS system is really to prevent doctor shopping and getting the pill mill activity started again. But there has been legislation passed to reduce the amount of opiates that are distributed and to prevent the doctor shopping activity.
So the AMA has drafted up some rules within their organization that talks about the reduction of prescriptions for pain medications and really using that more as a last resort. Now, that's the same organization that 10, 20 years ago did the reverse and said pain management, pain management, pain management, and the next thing we know, we have an opioid abuse problem in our nation. They recognize that, and working with pharmaceuticals and with physicians throughout the country, that message is going out now to reverse that dictum and do their best, not that they want anybody in great pain, but to be better at evaluating and what other options are out there before just jumping to that. On the church side of it, getting the word out to your congregation This is an informational and educational opportunity here, and you'll have more after we end this session with information out at those tables, but sharing with your congregation and outreach to not just the congregation, but to neighborhoods, as we've seen.
We had an organization called Generation RX come speak at all of our meetings. I think they originate out of Ohio State. If you search generationrx.org, I believe, they have a toolkit that's age appropriate, and these the people that the Ohio State students and whoever was involved in doing it did a great job in really getting downloadable materials that you can use to teach, your people about prevention. Because you had mentioned the prevention piece, and it's really just creating that awareness that this can happen. Not everybody who takes a Vicodin gets addicted, but people need to know that it can happen. And so really just that education piece about it. So I suggest that maybe take a look at that.
Basically, clean out your medicine cabinets. The chief and the captain both mentioned drop boxes. It's on the Montgomery County Drug-Free Coalition website. It's on the DEA website. There is pill take-back locations throughout your community, and I would say start there. And also, the last national drug take-back that we did, we're responsible for approximately 10 counties in the immediate area. I personally destroyed 2,500 pounds. Now, when you think about a pill and how much it takes to equal 2,500 pounds, that's what we destroyed our last national pill take-back, just in the Miami Valley.
Just as a naive do-gooder, what can we do to be a part of the solution? How can people help? How can people who are just citizens help?
I think getting involved with the organizations that are available is a great way to help, but also just educating yourselves. Available at the Montgomery County Drug-Free Coalition table is a help sheet that has common signs and symptoms of what it looks like to be in addiction from different types of drugs, as Sarah Clark alluded to earlier. And then also, just as a congregation, I think it starts with loving people where they're at. Hate the addiction, not the addict. I mean, when people are addicted, they're completely outside of themselves. The drugs hijack the brain and completely take over. It's not the person, it's the drug that's causing this. And as a church, we know that this is pure evil. And Jesus turned this world upside down with love, not with hate, not with discipline, not taking everything and arresting it or anything like that. So it's been my experience just to love on people and help them to get back on their feet, because it takes a holistic approach. It takes prevention, and that starts with education, and that also helping people along through to make the correct choices in life so that they don't end up on the road to addiction. And then what do you do with the people when they get out of treatment? I think that there has to be a lot more resources available to help people to stay, because the main thing is changing the people, places, and things. If you don't change that, you're going to fall right back into this pattern very, very quickly.
Well, we're actively participating in Neighborhood Watch, and if it's not occurring in your neighborhood and there's a desire for that, we'll be happy to partner with you, number one. And a couple ways you can deal with that: certainly contact the police department at any time, and we'll work with you on establishing that and conducting a meeting in your neighborhood.
But anytime you want to reach out to the police department, police@cityofmiamisburg.com, or if you want to stop by, or a few people that want us to sit down and talk to them about crime prevention, we'll be extremely transparent about what's going on in your neighborhood and what you can do to prevent it and what you can do to look out for yourself. No holds barred. We'll let you know, just to help you out. We want people to reach out to us. We want to establish that relationship. We want your quality of life to be as high as it possibly can be. So anybody in Miamisburg, don't ever be afraid to contact us, because we'll be there. We'll talk to you. We'll be transparent with you, and we just want you guys to be happy and safe. So anytime you want to contact us, please do.
And if anybody would like to come join the fight with us, feel free to come to one of our coalition meetings. It's held the third Thursday of each month, and at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And we need a lot of help on our committees, and because we're a very active coalition, a lot of activity occurs with what we do. Lori's there, and a lot of other people are there with us to help us push through this. So it's all a volunteer organization. The funding comes from private donors and so forth, but we are making an impact, and we are causing change to occur. And the more we have help doing that, the better off we're all going to be.
One thing I wanted to mention before we're done is that if anyone is, if you know, everybody knows somebody. So I really encourage you to stop by our table, pick up a brochure, pick up a business card, keep it with you. You know, families, I always say families hit their bottom first, don't you think? Right? You know, we're to a point of insanity first before our loved one really decides that they're ready, and we go round and round with that. So if you hear of anybody who's, from the family side or whatever, or, individual, give us a call. I have helped so many people individually by asking them what insurance they have, what they've tried before, what do you think will work for you? And if they're not ready, I've got a guy who calls me probably once a week just to check in and go over stuff with me, because him and his wife don't necessarily see eye to eye on stuff, so he likes to run stuff by me. So we're just a huge support system for anybody from the peer standpoint, as opposed to, kind of like a been there, done that. So I really encourage you to arm yourself with that education so that when you come across somebody, you already know.
And with that, we've been assembled for a little over 2 hours here in this theater. So to wrap up, I'd like to thank all the panelists for participating. I'd like to thank all the city staff that participated in putting this event together. I'd like to thank everybody here that took some time out of your day to be here. And lastly, I'd like to thank, as agencies, the FBI and the DEA specifically, for putting together Chasing the Dragon for communities to reach out to their communities with. And with that, Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you.
I hope that you have received some information out of this meeting tonight. It was very enlightening, and I think if we work together as a community, we're not going to eliminate it, but I think we could put a big dent into it. And that needs our churches, our schools, and the city all working together with our citizens to try to make this a better situation than it is, and hopefully help some of these individuals. Let's give these people a round of applause for their effort.